Hey guys, and welcome back to Anthony's Tennis Hub. My name's Anthony Hirsch. Today I want to talk about Roger Federer, and specifically I want to bring up May 30th, 2004. Now, what is special about that date? Well, it is the final time that Roger Federer would lose before the quarterfinal of a major, before the final eight of a major, for 3,314 days. He didn't skip a major during this period of time. This is almost a decade. 36 majors played. He would reach the quarterfinal in 36 consecutive majors. The final eight, the last stages, the final eight of 36 consecutive major events. He would always be there. He was quite literally always there at the ends of tournaments, the biggest tournaments in the world. Lost to former three-time Roland Garros champion Gustavo Kuerten, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. That was roughly 20 years ago, May 30th, 2004. It was not until Wimbledon in 2013 he would eventually lose to Sergei Stakhovsky in the second round on June 26, 2013. Like I said, almost a decade later. Federer was unreal with these kind of stats. I mean, I'll give a lot of stats throughout this video, just to be clear. He had some stats that are just phenomenal. I know that a lot of his records have been overtaken by Djokovic and by Rafa, but man, does he still have some that are just absolutely ridiculous. That's one of them. Another one, 237 consecutive weeks to number one. 4.5 straight years before he was overtaken by Rafa after their epic Wimbledon final. Also Roland Garros. I mean, 237 consecutive weeks as the top player in the world. This is the crazy one to me. 10 straight finals. And then he lost the straight sets to Djokovic at 2008 Australian Open. Then another 8 straight major finals. Think about reaching 8 straight major finals. Or 10 straight major finals, which is what Federer did first. That's 18 of 19 finals in 19 consecutive Grand Slam tournaments. 18 of 19 consecutive Grand Slam finals. These are stats that just seem unreal, mythical. And that's what Federer kind of was. 23 straight semifinals. This guy changed the game. And you can talk about weak era, but if you're dominating to this extent over some of the best athletes and tennis players in the world, that says more about you as a player than it does about the rest of the field. It's a very negative light and an incorrect one to say that's about the rest of the field. So that's the first thing I'd say. 23 straight semifinals, 18 of 19 straight finals, 36 consecutive Grand Slam quarterfinals. We've just touched the water, right? We've just touched the water on what's been an absolutely marvelous career. 3 out of 4 consecutive years, 2004, 2005, and 2007. Each of those years, he won 3 out of 4 slams. 2005, he lost 4 matches. The year he didn't reach 3. By the way, he's the only man ever to win 2+ majors 4 years in a row. Only man to win 5 consecutive majors at 2 different slams. He's got lots of records like that. Loads of them. Loads of records like that. He's the only man with 5 titles at 3 different slams. Only man with 5 titles at 3 different slams. Only man with 8+ titles, major titles, on 2 different surfaces. He's the only man to ever play 429 Grand Slam matches. I mean, these are some of the most ridiculous stats. 7 consecutive finals played at Wimbledon. That's the most consecutive finals at any slam for anybody. He's also the only man with 6 consecutive finals at 2 different majors. I mean, the stats go on. To have these kind of stats at the biggest tournaments in the world is just ridiculous. And at Wimbledon, he was barely losing sets. This is at a time when there were a lot of great grass court players at the time as well. And he made 12 finals out of 16 attempts at Wimbledon. I mean, when you look at stats like that, you're just like, come on, man. 12 finals out of 16 attempts to win 8 times, playing against guys like Nadal and Djokovic, beating Djokovic in 2012. Losing on a few other occasions as well, obviously, but still hanging real tough at that event, even in those finals. And I mean, Federer was on another level, and we know that. Beating Lleyton Hewitt in the U.S. Open final and winning 2 bagels, 6-0, 7-6, 6-0. This is a level from a player who would beat almost anybody, if not anybody, some would argue, but almost anybody that's in front of him. And he had no control over who he was playing, including he was playing against Nadal as well, although I know he was younger, but he was playing against some good players also back in the day. But anyway, I digress. To me, for a long time, he defined the sport to me. Very genuine, passionate emotions on the court that he would share with his fans through wins and losses. One of the most impressive things to me about Federer in his career is that he would, mentally fold in a lot of matches. A lot of epic matches he probably could have won. He did mentally fold a lot. That's not to mention also that he came back a lot as well. I do want to mention that really quickly because I will say he came back from 2 sets love down on 10 separate occasions. That was the most ever until Murray had that epic win against Kokkinakis at the Australian Open. Then Murray is now the all-time leader in that. But 10 2-7 love comebacks, 22 times he saved match points. Did Federer. And I remember those really well. It was very special watching all of those comebacks as a fan. I remember those very well. That takes a very strong mentality. And to win 86% of Grand Slam matches, having 81 appearances, which is the most ever, I mean, come on, man. Barely losing, always getting to the ends of tournaments, even when he was 35, 36, 37. And that's just something that didn't really happen. So Federer would lose these epic matches against top players, and then he would come back and win right away. 2008 Roland Garros, he won 4 games in the final against Rafa. This is a player this is his biggest rival, a player he should be beating. He's very good on clay as well, by the way. Federer's pretty good on clay. Beat Rafa at Hamburg that year in straight sets. He's pretty good on clay. Lost 4 games to Rafa in the final there in 2008. And then he lost a heartbreaker crying to Rafa in 2009 Australian Open final. He would win 3 out of the next 4 majors, including his first Roland Garros title. This was an insane streak of form from Federer, and then obviously he would have an amazing kind of comeback win at the 2012 Wimbledon, which was very special to me as a fan of Federer watching. I will admit I was a huge fan of Federer watching while I was playing. Now that I'm a commentator, I try to stay unbiased and try to be a good kind of objective outlet for the sport more than anything, although hopefully fun and engaging outlet as well. But I will say I was a big fan of Federer, and it was very, very amazing to see his win here in 2012 at Wimbledon. And then, of course, coming back 5 years later in 2017, and this is something that people weren't used to at all, especially in this kind of regard. Became the oldest world number 1 ever at 36. He won 3 majors in 2017, 2008. He straight-setted a prime Novak Djokovic at the ATP Finals at 38 years old. This is something people have never been used to, especially because he had such a wild and insane dominance when he started up. When he started up, a dominance we still haven't seen the likes of for in a span of 5 or 6 years like the one that he had. We still haven't seen that. Like I said, barely losing matches in the way he did. And he would have those, back to my point, he would have those losses to Nadal and Djokovic, many other players, like the Nalbandian loss that I mentioned earlier as well. He would have those losses, and then he would come back to winning right away. I mean, to me, that just takes an amazing mentality to lose matches like that and then still just constantly be around at the top of the game. It takes a winner's mentality to push the sport to a next level like he did, a quantum leap for tennis. That takes a next level to quantum leap the sport in the way that Roger Federer did. 20 slams, the record was 14. First man to get to 20 slams. Pushing Nadal and Djokovic to their best. And hanging around with them and beating them many times, who many would argue are the 2 best players ever, pushing them to their best, pushing the sport to its best, elevating it to a whole new level. And I mean, the way The way that he kept contesting with them throughout their career, and a longevity, just a ridiculous longevity. A point away from winning Wimbledon at basically 38 years old, almost 38. I mean, this is stuff that's just unbelievable, breathtaking. A prime like that, and then to stay around for as long as he did. And Djokovic and Nadal both needed Federer to get to where they're at as well. And Federer in his own right is obviously next level and phenomenal. So those are some of the things I would say about Federer. He ended up with 20 majors, very versatile, outside of many Roland Garroses, but he did get the one Roland Garros. Then 8 Wimbledons, 5 US Opens, 6 Australian Opens, 6 ATP Finals titles, 28 Masters titles, 22 more finals also as well. And, I mean, those are just some of the stats that I would mention for Federer. 103 titles. And, I mean, just to think about 1,251 wins. He had a 56-match win streak on hard court, 65-match win streak on grass, 35-match win streak in general, 41-match win streak. And I don't just want to mention that Federer was a beautiful player. I purposely strayed away from that to start the video off. Don't just want to mention that he's an artistic player, all of that. Obviously, he is, and he was. But he is also one of the greatest athletes I think we've ever seen, and one of the best tennis players to ever step on the planet. And that should be appreciated for the unreal things he did and how he pushed the sport to a next level. And he did it by his own doing. I mean, like I said, it takes a winner's mentality. He wasn't chasing anything. He just created records and numbers unlike the sport had ever seen. And he just did it by himself. But just talking to finish off about Federer's shot making, in my opinion, the greatest shot maker we've seen. The greatest shot maker we've seen. Alcaraz looks like he wants to take on that mantle, but for now, I would say the greatest shot maker we've ever seen. You just awaited the artistry on the court from Federer, and it inspired you, or at least inspired me to want to go on the court and try the impossible things that he did. The near magic that he was performing. You want to go on the court and try it yourself. So athletic, so physical, tennis, yet so beautiful. And he defined it. He defined that nature of the sport. You couldn't see anything else quite like it. In athleticism and in sports. A physicality and an animalistic nature, but simplified down somehow and brought to its most beautiful efforts. As the ball is hit between the lines in a way that shows elegance, it shows majesty and bewilderment, wonderment at how he can do this. Every point played in an amazing, unique way. So dynamic. And he was the GOAT for a long time, and whether he is or isn't anymore, it was amazing to see his journey unfold. And just an incredible player all around, and hopefully this is was a solid appreciation video for him. Such amazing shots he had throughout his career. The overhead against Roddick comes to mind. He just did things that people thought were impossible on a tennis court, and he deserves all the appreciation for all of that. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to Anthony's Tennis Hub if you haven't already. It would be appreciated. And I'll see you guys at the next one for the next video.